The only way is the right way, I might say. Nobody doing it better, y'all some lightweights. Malik Wright, up all day and all night, pushing all the buttons up to something till it's alright. He looking at it from all sides and angles, got a stripes on his body like he played for the Bengals. Oh man, there's no one discussing it. They came, they stayed, they either did it or done it. Man, I love it, cause all they ever do is win. So kick back, relax, the team WSN.
Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Sit Down Morning Show with Malik Wright, presented by the Right Way Sports Network. I'm your host, Malik Wright, joined by my co-host as always, Daniel Almeida. Got a jam-packed show for you guys. But before we jump into all of that, do us a favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or upload content from the TWSN studios. Sorry for the late start. Woke up again under the weather a little bit, so I was spending the morning trying to get myself corrected and stuff like that, and I'll bring you guys obviously the best sit down show we can. Danny, we got a lot of stuff to get into, a lot of stuff to talk about, man. We got Thursday Night Football. We got some of our favorite bets to kind of go over, as well as some NBA discussion to kind of discuss and talk about some things. I want to start over with LeBron James, Ja Morant. They had a little bit of a run-in last night with each other where, I felt like it was a little bit of an overreaction on Ja Morant's part a little bit. And it feels like Ja Morant is still trying to portray this bad boy image. And for me, even though it wasn't anything as egregious as it was in the past, it still feels like he has not learned his lesson. Do we have the clip to roll?
Yeah.
Let's roll the clip.
What was your perspective on that first half?
I think I did it too small to somebody who was too small. He came back and did it respectfully. He's 6'8", whatever. I would expect it. I thought it was a charge. He did it, and I don't back down from nobody. Don't care who you are. My job was to just come back. I got my bucket, and I set the tone. My teammates fed off of it, and you see what happened. So, top dog in our league. You take out the top dog. Who else you fear?
What is it about this Lakers team? It always.
I don't like them. They knocked me out the playoffs. And then last year we had a game and they came in here and popped it on our home floor when I was in street clothes. So I wasn't a night.
Yeah, for me that was very interesting. That borderlines on complete disrespect for LeBron James. For let's just say for the elders in the league and stuff like that. But I just thought it was out of way. Obviously, LeBron James did the too small thing to him. I get that. But for you to then score on his teammate and then literally run after the guy, charge your shoulder into him. Luckily, he's 6'8", 200 and whatever pounds he is. It didn't really move him too much, but that seemed a little unnecessary. And for me, for a guy like Ja Morant, who I hold in such high regard from a talent perspective, I expected more from him, man. I expected more from him. And I'm not trying to come out with the pitchforks, but it's like, bro, that you have the eyes of the NBA on you, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have the eyes of the NBA. People are looking at you. People are like, hey, is he finally going to get it? Because the talent is unmatched. The talent is all there. But to go after him like that, and then to make more of the situation when being asked by the media, you take out the top dog. What does taking out the top dog mean? Beating him? I don't know, man. That's just my thoughts, man. Daniel, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I think I like it, and I don't like the bump personally. That's the part I didn't like. Like, you went behind somebody's back after you scored on his teammate. It's not like you dunked on him. It's not like you crossed him over. It's not like you posterized him. It's not like you took it straight to him. You went out on a fast break and got a little turnaround floater on his teammate, not even on LeBron. So that's where I do take a little bit of issue. Is like, bro, you're talking shit respectfully after doing nothing. It was a layup. Like, if you want to talk, there was a nice 3-pointer he made, and he was talking to some fans. I rocked with that. He had a nice assist to Zach Edey, and after he was talking his trash, I rock with that. And I think that it's okay to go at the top dog, right? LeBron did do the too small thing, but I just didn't rock with how he bumped into him. First off, it's behind somebody's back. It's very similar a couple years ago, if you guys remember. Nikola Jokic went at, I forgot who it was, but they had a little altercation, and then in the middle of the court, I think it was Marcus Morris was turned around, and Nikola Jokic went and shoved him, and Marcus Morris was out, or Markieff Morris was out for multiple weeks because you hit somebody behind the back. So that's where I just didn't appreciate. I don't think that that's, there's not a real place in that for in the NBA. Just because it's like you could have heard him, and maybe I would sound like a homer, or maybe I sound like an old man saying, "Oh, you could have heard him," but you could have. It's not like you walked up to him and started talking trash. That's like Anthony Edwards, for example. I love what Anthony Edwards does. He talks trash, right? Bronny James comes on the court. First thing he does, Anthony Edwards walks right up to him and starts talking trash. I rock with that. I like when Christian Brown went and dunked absolutely all over Rudy Gobert and stared him down. That's what I like. But John Morant to do that, and then even post game to go out there and his comments, like you said, take out the top dog. Who else we would fear? It's not about who you fear, Jaw. We really don't care. We heard this time and time again. Oh, I don't care. What do you say? I'm fine in the West. And then you went out and you got dog walked in the playoffs. So it's like John Morant hasn't earned his keep to be going at, the number one guy. But I respect him for going at the number one guy in LeBron James. My biggest thing is I just didn't appreciate, and I don't like how he went behind his back and shoved him. It's like, what are you trying to accomplish there? It's not like you're talking trash to his face. You just bumped him after a little floater in transition. So all around, I like the competitiveness. I think that's what the NBA needs. I think it needs more of that. And I appreciate how him, Anthony Edwards, Luka, this new wave of guys are coming in and talking trash and not backing down, because these dudes are confident, and I like that. But for John Morant to do that, also number one, when your opposing players in team's best player, Anthony Davis, is out, they're dealing with injuries. It's like, what are you trying to accomplish? But hey, good for John Morant. If he feels like he's more confident after that, good for him. You just got to go out there and prove it the rest of the season. But like I said, I think that this is what the NBA needs. NBA needs more storylines like this, for right or for wrong, right? Whether it's something where we're talking about it and we're saying John Morant is in the wrong, at least we're talking about it. And I think that's what the NBA needs more. So you just hope that this doesn't correlate into something bigger for John Morant down the line. But I think if we're okay with the Anthony Edwards talking trash, we should be okay with the John Morant. I'm not saying you weren't, but like, I think that talking trash I'm cool with, but just bumping the dude behind his back, especially after you didn't score on him, I didn't get that. I didn't understand that. And especially, it was in the second quarter. The game wasn't even over. It wasn't even in the fourth quarter. So if you want to talk trash, go yam on him, go cross him over, go take it right to him. But to hit a floater on his teammate and talk trash, I thought that was weak personally. So
I mean, let's talk about it. No one has an issue with anyone talking trash.
yeah.
And let me just, I won't say anyone. I'll speak for myself. I don't have an issue with trash talk.
Yeah.
I talk trash,
Mhm.
right? I have an issue with the fact that you essentially, you were trying to play roughhouse with someone over something so insignificant, so small, that had nothing to do with, like, there was really no malicious intent when LeBron calling him too small. And it just
Yeah.
feels like John Morant. I think the biggest thing for me is that I feel like John Morant is very emotional. I'll never say a player being emotional and letting that result into physical action is okay. That's not okay. I think there's completely different the way Anthony Edwards talks trash versus the way John Morant talks trash. John Morant talks trash to try to play a tough guy.
Yeah.
And that's what's gotten him in the situation where he got suspended, or where he felt the need to even prove how tough he was to journalists and reporters in the past, and have his boys at games and staring players down and it's just stupid stuff that's not necessary. It's stupid stuff that's not necessary. I remember when him and Shannon Sharp was going at it,
Mhm.
so this is like a repeated offense with a guy like John Morant. It's not a cool thing to be. It's a dude that I'm really worried that he might not get the overall sentiment from everyone else that is around him. Like, hey, you should improve. You should try to get better. That's just immaturity, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But just my thoughts. If you guys do us a favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or upload content. Aaron Lowy, to your point, you said you were dogging Daniel last night about the way he said integral. Daniel's 100% right. It's not integral. Love the show. You got to remember, I'm from New Jersey, man. We say water like water, and like, even though it's water, we get it. Like, it's just the way we pronunciate things. It's really not that big of a deal. But I appreciate you too, man. I want to make sure that we get our guy, TWS analyst Parker Blake, in for the discussion here for some NFL talk. Feels like it's been a little bit since we've talked to Parker, but it really hasn't been that long. But without further ado, Parker Blake.
Howdy. How y'all doing?
Unlike, I would say we have a game today. So there's a lot to talk about, a lot of stuff to get into there. And we definitely will do our best to try and break down not only Bengals, but also what's going on in the NFL. Let's talk about some of the trade deadline stuff and get your overall reactions on some moves that went out, some of the teams that went out there and made some moves to try and attempt to get better. Obviously, you had Darius Smith go to the Detroit Lions. That was probably the worst kept secret. You had Mike Williams go to the Pittsburgh Steelers. The move doesn't really move me too much. You had Tre'Davious White go from the Rams to the Ravens. There were a lot of moves out there made from a lot of teams. Steelers went out and traded for Preston Smith. A lot of teams went out there and they tried better. Danny, I'm going to let you take this one away, though.
Yeah, so Park, I kind of want to talk about who were your biggest winners and losers, and I think give me one of your winners. And this is when we talk about this team, talk about a team that, performed expectation at the trade deadline, or saying, hey, coming out of the trade deadline, we can see them doing something serious that at least it gave their fan base a little more confidence. So who was, let's start off with the winner.
I think obviously the Lions are like the winner, where they filled what might be their only hole on their team right now with Darius Smith. I did really like what the Commanders did. I think it brought some juice to the organization. I think it got fans excited. I think it shows that they're trying to still be competitive, get after it a little bit. But those are really the only two teams that I can think of off the top of my head that I really got excited for. I think a lot of the other moves that happened, especially just on Tuesday, were kind of not really, again, kind of like a lot of the moves we've seen this year. I'm just not really moved. They don't really feel like significant, impact players. They might get a lot of reps. They might get a lot of run, but I don't think they're going to really change the game. I think Mike Williams is an interesting one. But yeah, it's really, those are the only two that I really got excited about.
Yeah. And I think it was really a kind of a quieter trade deadline. I feel like that's kind of some of these NFL trade deadlines. You obviously had the couple big moves before that, Deontay Johnson, DeAndre Hopkins, but we can talk about, before we get to a loser, I want to get your thoughts on the Khalil Herbert to the Bengals, right? That's kind of what trade deadline started off with. What was your thoughts on Khalil Herbert to the Bengals, and how do you think he's going to affect the Bengals running back room?
Yeah, no, I've been a fan of Khalil Herbert for a long time. I really just like his game, and I like what he's going to be able to bring with Chase Brown in the Bengals running back room. I think they both have high end explosive potential. I think Herbert could be more of that more in between the tackle, short yardage style back, and Chase Brown can return to his role as the perimeter guy, or the I'm going to generate explosive plays guy. Kind of keep him fresh so he can rip off some of these longer runs. But yeah, I really do like the pairing. I'm interested to see if they use Herbert as a returner in any capacity. Mm-hmm. But overall, yeah, I love the addition just because I think they pair well together. And I think they're a lot more similar than a Zach Moss and Chase Brown. However, I don't think that's a bad thing.
And that's what we were watching some of his film yesterday and looking at. He was a great returner, actually, for Chicago. Yeah. And I think that's something where he can definitely provide a lot of value. And it's something that, respectfully, I always look at the alternative. What if they didn't go out and get Khalil Herbert? Am I confident in Travion Williams the rest of the season?
Yeah.
Probably not. So I think that they definitely, and at the end of the day, it was a 7th round pick. So you basically got him for a bag of chips. So I think it was a very good move. And we talked about this on the show yesterday. I think there's some value not only for this upcoming week, but there's some value that he can add some serious juice to this rushing attack. And even like you were talking about, at the end of the day, you cannot give Chase Brown 27 rushes.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen, week after week. So to have the two back to back, I think it's a very good pairing. But let's talk about some more of the trade deadline. Was there any players that you expect to be moved that weren't moved, or even just another team that you expected to make a move that was like, damn, they didn't make a move and you would consider them a loser?
I think with the defensive tackle need, Evan Anderson's a guy out in San Francisco that just got elevated to their 53-man roster. I was surprised he never got really scooped up off their practice squad. But I was kind of interested to see if a team would go move for him specifically just because he's a younger guy. But I think he's performed well in limited run. Just hasn't been able to find the field. And I was surprised that he didn't end up getting moved. But overall, I mean, I think we can all talk about Dallas and Jonathan Mingo and that they probably needed to do more. I think that was probably my biggest loser of the trade deadline because I think they needed more pieces. They had that potential, but now we have the Dak situation going on, and there's a lot going on down in Dallas right now. And I think you can probably consider the Jets a loser, but I wouldn't personally, just because I didn't expect them to really add anything at the deadline. They've been moving all season and during the offseason. So
yeah, I think that when you look at Dallas, I want to talk a little bit more about that real quick. What's your overall thoughts on them? I mean, because there's really two consensus. You got some of the Cowboys fans that are trying to make the Jonathan Mingo trade more than what it is, saying, oh, he can really add a ton to our team this year. Do you think that they messed up not going for more, or what do you think that they should have done? And just what's the state of the Cowboys for you?
yeah, no, I mean, I think they definitely overpaid for Mingo. I can't, sell Mingo for a 4th rounder in my dynasty leagues. So I don't know how that worked out, but yeah, no, they definitely need more pieces. They feel like an incomplete team, and it really their situation feels like you could honestly send a number of different positions to Dallas and feel like it was a positive move for them.
Yeah.
And somehow they went out and got a guy and overpaid for a guy that didn't really move the needle. And that was the part for me that would have been more frustrating as a Cowboys fan, considering, you do have some significant holes. You do have some issues you're looking straight down the barrel at, and you didn't really go out and address any of those. But I mean, again, that's just where I think the Cowboys are at right now. Jerry Jones has come out and said that they like what they're working with, and they didn't anticipate doing much. And so, I mean, take that for what it is, but he wasn't lying, I suppose.
Yeah, and we'll talk about them more in a little bit, I'm sure, with our overreaction for week now. We got 2 comments real quick. Evan Hartman, our guy, he said Steelers didn't move the needle. I would agree. I think that Mike Williams is a good piece. Preston Smith is a fine edge rusher, but like, what is that really doing to change up their team? I think their team, regardless, is going to be a consistent team. They're going to be that 9 to 10 win team. They're going to likely make the playoffs, but is that moving the needle for them in the playoffs? So what was your thoughts on what the Pittsburgh Steelers did at the deadline?
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. I like that they went and added a receiver. I like that it was a receiver in Mike Williams, who I felt like needed to get out of the situation he was in. I think he'll bring some juice as far as, just being happy to be anywhere else than where he was at.
Yes.
But Preston Smith, right? I don't know what he's necessarily going to bring in as far as impact. I don't know if maybe he's just a guy they liked and they wanted to bring in, but usually kind of these trade deadline moves are guys you expect to be impact players right now. And I just don't understand. Like, I don't see the plan for him necessarily in this defense, but I'm sure it's exciting for him getting traded to, this defense that looks like it can be one of the best defenses in the league when everything's all said and done. So, I mean, I got to trust their moves. They seem to know what they're doing over there, but I think out of the 2 of them, Mike Williams was probably the more exciting move, but I don't see necessarily him being a huge impact guy for them down the stretch and like getting them, over the hump.
Yeah, he's good, and he can be a nice piece opposite of George Pickens. But like you said, at the end of the day, is he going to be the guy getting them over the hump? Probably not. Mercer said DJ Moore should have been moved. I think DJ Moore was an interesting one. I'm curious to get your thoughts. What was your thoughts on the whole him walking off the field yesterday? He was, went in the press conference, said, I rolled my ankle, and so I was just walking off. I was hurt. Do you think that the Bears should have moved DJ Moore? And do you think that do you think it's just a broken relationship?
I mean, you can definitely try to move him, but he just barely got his extension, right? So he's probably a really tough guy to move right now with that dollar value that's attached to him. Our team's really going to want to pay for that. They're probably getting lowballed like crazy for DJ Moore. I'm sure they got calls on him, but I think they're just in a situation where he's a hard guy for them to move right now. And I have the same kind of issue with, not necessarily issue, but with Odunze, as far as that's a very crowded wide receiver room. So I don't think any of those guys between DJ, Rome, and Keenan are going to be too happy, because there's too much talent in that room, and then their quarterback's not performing at a level where it can really get the ball spread to all the talent. So I've been waiting for something to happen. And I think, if you're injured in the middle of a play, like, there's nothing wrong with trying to, get out of the quarterback's view so he doesn't try and toss you the ball. Like, you can't just walk off the field, man.
Sit on the bench.
Everybody knows you can't just walk. Oh, it's still going. Oh, well, good luck. I hope they're all right out there. Try and take a guy. Try and obstruct the defender. That was something. And then I kind of just giggled when he came out. I was like, well, I rolled my ankle. I just wanted to get out of there. Didn't want to. And I was like, oh, well, just stand on the sideline, tap yourself out. You'll be all right. You'll be able to get out of there.
Exactly.
That was quite something.
Yeah. And I think, just real quick on that, man, it's time and time again, you just see how he's interacting with Caleb Williams. It's just not going well. Like, he's interacting, he brushes Caleb Williams on the shoulder.
Yeah.
It ain't going well over there in Chicago for him. But
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. But one thing's for sure, they're stuck with him right now. Trade deadline is passed. They're stuck with him. They got to find a way to figure it out. I think DJ Moore is just a guy that wants to win at all costs. And, obviously, we get two competitive guys, or a very competitive guy, going from a crappy situation to a situation he assumes is going to be better. And then it goes to a situation where it's equally bad. Not as bad. They've got the franchise quarterback in place. They probably need a new head coach, new offensive play caller. But those are all fixable things. But again, DJ Moore is a guy that's getting older in his career. He wants to sort of win now. So I get it. Let's talk about the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm surprised our guy Sean Brennan is in the chat right now. But we got to talk about the Kansas City Chiefs and talk about their potential to go undefeated. Will they go undefeated? Is there a loss that you see on their record here, Parker? Or is there a team that you think that could shock the Kansas City Chiefs here? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, first off, this Buccaneers game was exactly what I feel like I talk about every time I bring up the Chiefs on here. They just find ways to win. They lose football game after football game, and then somehow when the clock hits zeros, they have won the football game. So I think this is again, that's what makes teams great. I'm not saying that's a knock to the Chiefs. I'm not saying that's a knock to anything going on, but that's just they find ways to win. I don't think this Broncos game is going to be crazy for them. I know it's a divisional game, but I'm not necessarily worried about that one. I am interested to see this Bills game. I think we've seen kind of some of the mortality of this Bills team that started off the season extremely hot and looked like one of the top teams in the league. We've seen them, kind of fall off just a little bit. Yeah. Obviously, again, looking at their schedule coming up, you're not worried about the Panthers. I think that Raiders game, it could be interesting. Again, it was the Chiefs are the kings of winning one-score games this year, and I feel like that's going to be another close game. I'm interested to see which way that goes. I think that one is in Arrowhead, though. And same thing with their Chargers game the week after that. I'm not really too concerned with that game. I think really, as I look ahead, you're looking at this Bills game, the Browns game, the Texans game, and the Steelers game as far as games that are losable for the Kansas City Chiefs. I know it's the NFL, and there's your quote unquote trap games or these games that you're expected to win and you end up losing. But I don't think the Chiefs haven't done that against good teams. I don't expect them to drop an easy one to a bad team because again they just find ways to pull it out in the end. It'll be interesting to see Patrick Mahomes the rest of his season with that ankle, how often that's popping up through the rest of the season, as we're only halfway through right now. But I think there is a possibility for both because if they just keep doing what they've been doing and playing these close games and then just getting the win at the very, very end of the game, then obviously they have an easier path to going undefeated, starting out undefeated. However, I do think there are still some kind of bumps in the road ahead that I'm interested to see how they handle.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that I compare this team to the only team we've seen do it before. We've seen the New England Patriots do that before. And they're just two different teams. And once again, I'm really not going to try to disrespect the Kansas City Chiefs. But up until this point, the Chiefs are 8-0. When the Patriots were 8-0, they played one-score game. They were dominating everybody. And to keep that up for the rest of the season, I just don't know if it's sustainable for the Kansas City Chiefs. And I'm just talking about undefeated, right? And I just don't know if it's sustainable to continuously win these one-score games every single week. Because it seems like they played 8 games, I believe 6 of them were one-score games. And pretty much all those came down to the wire. This past game was overtime. So I'm with you. I think the Bills game's close. I think that Raiders game is close. And the Chargers could give them a run for the money. So I don't necessarily know if they go undefeated, but I'm impressed with them. I think the fact that they went out, they also added DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, this week was a very good week for him. He had 80-something yards, 2 tutties. Like, if you didn't go out and make that trade, if you didn't go out and try to, cover up the holes that you had, you'd be relying on a Justin Watson to be a wide receiver too. So what is that really doing for your team? Even hell, wide receiver 1, because DeAndre Hopkins is the wide receiver 1 right now. So I think they're getting by the skin of their teeth, and they're just playing timely football. Patrick Mahomes had probably his best game, I would say, this season, or one of his best games this past week. No interception, threw for 3 touchdowns. And Travis Kelce was just peppered with targets. So I think that they're on the right path to the playoffs. I think they're on the right path to continuously do what they've been doing and say, hey, we'll make the playoffs. We got Andy Reid. We got a great defense. We got Patrick Mahomes. But undefeated, I think they're just playing too close of games to expect that to continue for, the next 8-9 games. So I like what they got going on. Kareem Hunt's been very good for them. But at the same time, it's just they established the run. He had 20-something carries this past game. He's been solid for them, especially a great goal line back for them. But just overall impressed. They're a solid team right now. And to go undefeated, I would be very, very, very impressed if this Chiefs team went undefeated.
Well, if I'm playing devil's advocate here,
yeah,
hear me out, Park. Hear me out, Daniel. I'm impressed, right? The Chiefs are finding a way to win these close score games and stuff like that. But DeAndre Hopkins posted on Twitter, I believe it was a picture of Randy Moss and Tom Brady hugging, and I guess he was trying to say that him and Pat Mahomes are the new age of Randy Moss and Tom Brady. If you remember correctly, that team went undefeated in the regular season, and then they lost, obviously, in the Super Bowl. They never won a Super Bowl together, that duo. So I'm okay with the Chiefs going undefeated. I'm okay with it. I'm okay that if they never taste defeat in the regular season, it'll make it that much sweeter. I'm okay with that. And I think, honestly speaking, I think that the only hope to stopping the Chiefs is a certain team in Ohio, and it's not the Browns. That's what I'll say. But I think right now, the Chiefs have a favorable schedule that a Bills game is going to be interesting. I just don't rate the Bills really too highly. I think the Bills always find a way to choke against the Chiefs for whatever reason. They're kryptonite. They're the Achilles heel. And then I think that, I saw Sean Brennan. I really love the guy. He's probably the most practical Chiefs fan I've ever come across. He says, the Steelers game is going to be a little bit of a tough one for them. Listen, they've got some tough games on schedule. They've got some tough games, no doubt about it, on the schedule. And Sean Brennan, I'm okay, brother. I'm very aware of what I wish for. I don't wish you guys any ill will. I hope that you guys accomplish everything that you want to this season in terms of the regular season, and then we'll see how the playoffs shake out. But I think that this Kansas City Chiefs team is just finding a way to be scrappy and scrape out wins. My opinion really doesn't matter too much on them, right? Because I thought the year that they won the Super Bowl against the Philadelphia Eagles, they weren't the best team in the league, but they found a way to win, right? And I think that's what it comes down to. It comes, do you find a way to win, especially when the going gets tough. The margin for error is so small in the NFL. So it's going to be a situation that I continue to look at. I continue to pay attention to see what happens from there. I want to get to our week. What was the past week? Week 9 overreactions of the NFL. It was was an interesting week in the NFL. Daniel, what were some of your overreactions from this past week?
Yeah, I got a lot, and I'm excited to talk about this. I think that it was a very pivotal week, I would say, in the NFL. Obviously, we saw Dennis Allen get fired. We saw some of these other teams. Um, the number one, and this is pretty much the obvious one, I think Doug Peterson's got to be gone, and I think the organization knows this. First off, you're in a season where you just signed your franchise quarterback to a $200-something million deal, and you trade away his starting left tackle. After this entire season, the offensive line has been the number one issue on your offense. You go look at that game against the Eagles, they had their chances to win, but Travis Etienne dropped a pass, fell right into a defender's lap. Multiple receivers were, dropping passes, and you don't go out and trade for a wide receiver after Christian Kirk gets put on IR, after Brian Thomas Jr. gets a little banged up. Gabe Davis is not it. I think Doug Peterson's gone. So that would be my biggest overreaction from this game, is saying, hey, I still like what I saw at times from Trevor Lawrence, but they're instilling no confidence in this team. This team right now is a lost team. This season is a lost season for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And it shows me that the GM and the organization is admitting that, because how do you trade away your starting left tackle and you don't make any trades to go out and supplement a serious need at wide receiver, because your only guy that's really doing is Brian Thomas and Evan Ingram. So Doug Peterson will get fired. That was one of my takeaways. Parker, what you got?
Well, you must be crazy if you think I'm not going to talk about my Texans tape.
Yeah.
From last time we did this thing, and they came out and just got embarrassed on national television.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I want to go to the NFC this time around, and I do think that I think I had a hard time with this one, but I think the Philadelphia Eagles are going to be the 5th seed in the NFC going into the playoffs. And the reason I think that's a hot take is because I think they have shown that they could be this really high-end team, but they've also shown they could just completely implode in the middle of an NFL football game. And I think I'm excited to see them lead even more into the Saquon Barkley train. I'm excited to see them just start grinding teams away and owning the game clock and just kind of leaning on that identity. And I think that's going to get them really far into a postseason run, to be honest. I don't think if they can do that successfully, I don't think they're going to be a one-and-done playoff team. I think they're going to be able to make a little bit of a push here. And I think a lot of people are kind of looking at the Eagles kind of like we did at the end of last season, right? Where it was like, oh, this team is going into the playoffs talking about firing their head coach. And they've been talking about firing Sirianni all season this season. I don't think that's ever going to go away. Welcome to Philadelphia. But I do think this team is underperforming so far this season compared to what they could and what they should be. And so I kind of want to hop onto the Eagles bandwagon, at least early on in the playoffs.
So you talked about hopping onto the Eagles bandwagon. I've got a couple more, but I want to get your thoughts. First off, the Commanders, man. We talked about them. Are you sold on them being winning their division? And also, how serious of a contender are they? Because in my opinion, my biggest takeaway too is, goddamn, the organization has got to be happy, man. I mean, look at it from 2 years ago. It's something very similar, kind of that what happened with, Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. So where you look 2 years ago, what was the state of the organization? I remember in preseason, the new owner and stuff, and everybody was like, oh, is this a new regime? Is this going to result in something good? Now we're talking about them as serious playoff contenders. So I think just one of my overreactions, we talked about Jaden Daniels in past weeks, but they're just a damn good football team, man. Cliff Kingsbury has been absurd for them. And just the weapons, a guy like Noah Brown, who was gifted away from the Houston Texans, has been balling out for them. So what's your thoughts on the Commanders? Are they serious contenders? Because I think that they are.
I think this is the perfect time to ask that question, because I think we're about to find out, because we're approaching, or we have actually officially hit what's considered the rookie wall. Once you get to that game 9, 10, 11, 12 in the NFL season, that's when you see if these rookies are going to really hang on to it and be able to make a push, or if they're going to fall off. And I do worry about the Commanders and how they end the year. But I've said since the beginning of the season, it's crazy what adding this playmaker at quarterback can do. But we also have to remember last season, just last season, this team was being constructed to try and attempt to save jobs. So this isn't like a bad roster. This is a roster that they were trying to assemble to try and stay in Washington. And so I think, getting that from the previous regime and then injecting a Jaden Daniels into it, and now you went and got a Marshawn Lattimore. Like, I think this is a team that's really poised to have a fun run, but I think it all hinges on if Jaden Daniels is able to A, stay healthy, and B, maintain his level of play. And I think one of those things goes awry over the next, 8-9 weeks, whatever we have left here. So as much as I love the Commanders, I wouldn't be surprised to kind of see a fall off, not necessarily a spiral. I think they've got enough momentum right now to carry them to like 10 wins, 11 wins on the season. But I wouldn't be surprised to see them kind of spiraling before the playoffs kick off and then kind of come into the playoffs like, oh, is this team on upset alert? Or are they, kind of one of those situations? They're definitely not the buzzsaw the Lions are. Yeah. They don't look like the powerhouse that the Vikings have shown they can be. So I think kind of out of these top NFC teams, the Commanders are probably the one I still keep my eye on and waiting for them to prove something to me long term.
I would agree. And I think they're going through a next couple games. It's going to be a tough stretch for them. How about the Chargers, man? They're a team, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know what to think, right? My gut tells me that they're going to be a great team next year. I just look at the guys that they got on their team, and I don't like it. I really like Ladd McConkey, but you're relying on Will Dissly. You're relying on even the offensive line's a little bit banged up. You got 2 huge wins, but those are against the Saints, and then I believe it was the Denver Broncos. And the times you faced the Chiefs, lost in a 1-score game. You lost Cardinals in a 1-score game, Steelers in a close game. What's your thoughts on the Chargers? Are they for real? Because Herbert has been playing lights out. He's been playing like a top 10 quarterback in the past, 4 or 5 weeks, 0 interceptions. I'm just a little, cautious with them because I just don't think that they have the roster to do it. But are they serious contenders now? And also, will they be serious contenders next year?
I am to the point with the Chargers. I know this is the first year with Jim, but I'm to the point with them where I need them to prove it to me before I'm ever going to invest any kind of emotional energy in the Chargers, because I feel like every season it's like, oh, well, once we get to next season and we're able to do this and this, we're going to be this awesome team. We're going to do all of this. And I actually like some of the pieces they have. I love this offensive line. I think Justin Herbert, I'm starting to get worried about. He feels like he's kind of on the Trevor Lawrence trajectory out of that class, opposed to some of the other guys that were in that class with Justin Herbert. But yeah, you got your allegedly franchise quarterback behind one of the better offensive lines in the league on paper. Then you have a guy like Quentin Johnston who felt like he kind of started figuring it out this season. Like, it wasn't like the Quentin Johnston last year where he was just a meme every week and couldn't find a way to make an impact. But he felt like he was really starting to figure it out. Ladd McConkey, like you said, is a guy that I love, especially for this offense where they can just drive that down the field. Their running games look great, but they just somehow aren't able to put it together. And that's where I'm like, I don't know how much better realistically they make this roster, what pieces they try to add in the offseason. It's like, oh, are you just going to add to this defense? That'd be great. I think that's what they should do. But at the same time, this offense feels like it's almost complete outside of a couple weapons, maybe on the perimeter, or a weapon on the perimeter outside of Ladd McConkey. But what does that really do to your game? Why does that really elevate your team or this offense, or is it a more systemic issue? And so as far as the Chargers are concerned, man, I require them to show me something to make me believe in them before I'm going to ever put stock back into the Chargers. Though I love the Chargers, love Justin Herbert. Jim Harbaugh is my guy. Football guys love me because I love them. So
Exactly. One last team I want to talk about. I think, and this is something where it's going under the radar because this team didn't play. But the Cardinals versus the 49ers is the matchup that I'm really looking at, just as these two teams, face off in their division, right? I think the 49ers are a team that they're getting slept on. Christian McCaffrey's coming back this week, but I want to get your thoughts. Are the Cardinals serious? Because my takeaway, honestly, is that the 49ers are really going to make a push at the end of the season, and they're going to return as a team that's up there with the Detroit Lions. I think they could finish off the season heading into the playoffs saying, damn, 49ers are the second best team in the NFC, and it feels like no one is talking about them.
That was actually my other overreaction was, is this Cardinals team legit, man? Like this is the Cardinals team that I feel like everyone's been trying to sell for the past few years of Kyler Murray. This,
Mhm.
I don't know what they've done in that building, man, but this team is finally playing like they should be. Kyler Murray's even, getting trickled into the conversation, kind of the conversations that he was in early on in his career as far as the quality of play he's able to put out and what he's able to do with the stuff that he's given. And I think the funnest, the most exciting part of this Cardinals team for me is that they still have a lot of holes to fill. They still have a lot of issues as far as their roster is concerned, but they're playing some really exciting games. And this is exactly what an NFL team needs to kick off a turnaround, right? If you
Yep.
can get guys in the building to believe in what you're doing, especially with a bad roster, if you're able to stack draft picks again, like we've seen the Cardinals do previously, and just bring in an injection of a lot of young talent out of the draft and some free agents in the offseason, like this could be a really quick turnaround purely because the organization believes in itself and these players believe in what we're working for. So I really do think this Cardinals team has a lot of potential. I don't know what their ceiling looks like this year. I don't think they're like a Super Bowl contender. They could really make a push for a playoff spot. This NFC West has been crazy fun to watch this year as far as the playoff race is concerned. I think they could definitely be scrappy and in that conversation, but I don't see them winning more than maybe a playoff game if they are
Mhm.
able to make it to the dance. But yeah, man, this Cardinals team has been fun to watch, no doubt.
No, for sure. Make sure you guys do us a favor. Give this video a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or upload content from the TWSN studios. Parker, before we get you out of here, want to discuss obviously the Bengals. The Bengals have a big game on tap tonight against the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore. It's the scene of the crime that happened last season where Joe Burrow was out for the year. This, make no mistake about it, this feels like a pivotal game. This feels like a game that if the Bengals are able to win, their season is going to take off on a rocket ship. It feels like if they lose, the air might go out of the bubble a little bit. Mathematically, they wouldn't be eliminated from the playoffs, but you do feel the sense of urgency from those obviously in the building, people that have had a mic in front of their face, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, to name a few. Um, and it makes you wonder, how is the approach going to be for this game? I know there are people that believe Joe Burrow had this game circled on his calendar, obviously, from what happened last season. I think Joe Burrow has every game circled on his calendar moving forward. I think he understands that they are in a must win now situation. The time for talk is over. They've got to find a way amidst everything that they've got going on. So, Parker, what are your thoughts on tonight's game? Bengals at Baltimore. Give me your thoughts.
Yeah, no, I feel like, I have to say I did talk about previously already having one of those games where it's like, oh, if they win this game, they're gonna really be on the right track.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like since that point, they've kind of just floated, right? Like they haven't really done anything to really impress Bengals fans or the NFL media, to be honest. I mean, they're just still floating here, still under 500, even if just by a game. I do want to say I hate that this game is this early because I think that's one of the best matchups in the league is the Bengals versus the Ravens as far as divisional matchups go. I would have liked to see this later in the season as far as entertainment value and kind of how much weight that game is going to have. But that aside, I think this game is going to be the jumping off point if they are able to pull out a win here. I think this is truly, if you get swept by the Ravens in your own division, you're sitting at 4-6 coming out of week 9. Like, I just don't know what you necessarily have to look forward to. It's like, okay, even if you're able to find a way to sweep the Steelers, sweep the Browns, you finish 4-2, the Ravens are going to probably be on a good track to get that 1 seed. You're going to come into the playoffs. If you're able to skate into the playoffs with a lower seed, you're going to have a harder path in. I just think it makes the road ahead so much more difficult. And with the issues that this team's been having throughout the year, I think you said it perfectly, where a loss this week, a loss tonight really just takes the air out of the building, where it's like, man, this is like we just aren't able to get things done this year like we should be able to. So I think this really is, I don't know, momentum isn't real. My timeline tells me at least once a month, but I think this is Uncle Mo's game, man. I think if they win this
Uncle
game,
Mo.
they're able to say, hey, we can do things. We can beat good teams. We've shown that we might be coming together. Maybe we're just hitting our late season stretch. Once the weather gets a little chilly, Joe Burrow always figures it out, but I do think if they lose this game, we're looking at a rocky next 9 weeks of NFL football.
I think Uncle Mo's right. I think you're right in saying that. I think that this team, the alternative, right, and the situation is if you lose this game, you do have to win pretty much 8, 7-1. You can pretty much only lose one of your next 8 games or 7 games. And that's a tough task. That's a tough task for any team. This Bengals team can obviously do it, but especially coming off of a loss, the momentum swing is not looking very positive in your favor. But on the flip side, Parker, if they go into Baltimore and they do the thing and they beat the Baltimore Ravens, man, it's all right in front of you. And
Yeah.
this is a team right now that I think they're hoping and they're yearning for that momentum. They need that big win because I think you hit the nail on the head, man. It's the Giants game, the Raiders game, the Browns game. These were games where you're just pushing your season along. You're just trying to get back on the right path. You're not trying to focus on the playoffs. You're not trying to focus on, really instilling a ton of confidence. You're just trying to get a win and get by. You're just trying to get 1 week at a time. But this is the week where it's prime time, man. And like Malik was saying earlier, hey, Joe Burrow in front of the mic, Jamar Chase in front of the mic. These dudes know how pivotal this game is. They know what a primetime game. They know what Thursday Night Football against this divisional opponent means and what it means for the season. And one last thing that we talked about on the show yesterday is just look at the motivation. I'm not saying that the Ravens aren't going to be motivated for this game, but these are two teams that are in completely different spots. Go look at what Lamar Jackson, John Harbaugh, Ravens fans were saying before or even after, yesterday's or last week's game. Man, we're riding high. We got 2 MVP candidates. This is our year, and they're making all these correlations to what happens, a couple Ravens season when they went to the Super Bowl with Joe Flacco, saying, hey, this is the same thing, man. We feel this. So if that's a team already looking towards the Super Bowl and you got one team that has their quarterback that backs up against the wall, they know how important this game is. I think that motivation plays a factor. And I think that these two teams are heading into this game with 2 completely different mindsets. And I think that helps the Bengals team out a lot. So, Parker, what do you think happens in this game? Obviously, you don't have to give a score prediction, but what does your gut tell you about this game?
It's hard. It's hard to win in Baltimore, man. I'm not gonna lie, and I think that Ravens game in Cincinnati, obviously went to overtime. Derrick Henry, who was contained all game, just rips off his biggest run of the day. I think he almost doubled his rushing total on the day. So if the Bengals defense is able to figure it out, go in there, they're a lot healthier now than they were then, and really again contain Derrick Henry. Stuff this run game. I know it used to be, force Lamar to throw and you'll win the football game. I don't think you can do that anymore. But if Luke could come out here again with stunts, blitzes, show these different looks, speed Lamar Jackson up, that's how you win the football game. And they showed a pretty good game plan last time. I think this offense has been looking good. They just came off of a week where even though they scored, way more points than they needed to win that football game, Joe Burrow still saw the path for perfection, right? He's pursuing perfection week in and week out, and he has great games against the Ravens. I do feel like the Bengals are going to be able to pull this off, but it's tough. It's tough to win in Baltimore, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Ravens were able to make this a battle or even win that football game. But I think, like Sean Brennan said in the chat, man, this is going to be a 3-point football game. Take the dog to cover. That's what kind of football game this is going to be. But obviously, I'm going to believe that the Bengals are going to pull this one out, and they're going to get on the right track for the rest of the season, make it exciting.
I would agree. We got a couple comments. Keith Hellebrand said, "Who Day from Orlando. We appreciate you tuning in, man." Tyler Drawn had a question. Who's the biggest difference maker for this game for the Bengals offense? Is it Jermaine Burton or Mikey G?
It's going to be Mike Gesicki. I don't know if Burton sees the field at all. If he does, it won't be great volume, in my opinion, because I want more Mike Gesicki personally. So maybe I'm biased.
No, I definitely agree, and I think that all around, we talked about this on the show, but the pathway to victory isn't necessarily going to be running the ball. It really is going to be the weapons on this offense, and it's the Ravens' rushing attack on defense is absurd, and they're going to be loading the box. They're going to be doing what they do. They've got great run stuffers. It's going to be up to Joe Burrow. And there's something else. Without T. Higgins, it's going to be crucial that a Mike Gesicki, it's going to be crucial that a Jermaine Burton, that these guys step up, because we know what we got with Andre Yoshivas. He's going to be solid. But T. Higgins was a huge part of the Bengals offense the last game, and you got to supplement that somehow. So Mike Gesicki, Jermaine Burton, it's going to be on those guys. And Keith said, do we know the extent of T's quad injury? Not quite sure.
No.
But Sean Brennan said, who's the one guy the Bengals have to stop? Henry's the obvious choice, but to me, it's Zay. You cannot let him get you over the top. I would agree that Zay Flowers is one of the guys that you have to pay attention to. But to be honest, and this may sound crazy because the Bengals gave up 41 points in that last game, you just got to do the same thing to get Derrick Henry the hell out of the game plan. Because, Parker, you brought it up. He had 45 rushing yards heading into that overtime, and he broke off a 51-yarder. That is a recipe for success. If you can stop the dude who's been rushing for 160, 150, 109, 99, if you can slow him down, at least that takes one thing out of their game plan. But I can promise you, if you let Derrick Henry get going, it's going to be a very, very long night for the Bengals defense. But
yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting one. Oh, so this is a funny moment, real quick, just to show y'all how fickle the NFL is and how, like, I feel like sometimes, like, people in the national media that we look to, they gatekeep a lot of information. Did you see the interaction between Jay Gruden just now and Ian Rappaport? Well, Jay Gruden tweets out, hearing that, Trevor Lawrence is going to be out for, is having surgery. Hope that his sources are wrong. And Ian, like, quote tweets him, like, I want to say like a minute or two afterwards. And it's like, no surgery is scheduled, Jay, but he is expected to miss Sunday. But that's the thing. They gatekeep this information, and then it's like, it's widely known from a lot of insiders and stuff like that what happens. Like, this is why, and this is just me just bringing this up, but this is why, like, I wanted to kind of not pigeonhole myself to just being an NFL insider, because so much information gets sort of like, what do you call it, gets kept and protected on a regular basis. And then it's weird. It's like, I remember last year, Parker, it might have been last year or 2 years ago, where I got good information that, Justin Herbert was supposed to miss a game after he had the whole rib injury thing. And everybody was saying he was going to miss the game. It was known. And then that dude basically defies all doctor's orders and said he's playing no matter what. But the expectation was the organization was going to hold him out. But that's the type of fickle information that gets out. So, like, it's like if Jay Gruden didn't tweet that about Trevor Lawrence being, out for a certain amount of time, would they have reported that today? Or would they have waited until Friday? Or would they have waited that until Saturday? It's a very, very fickle game. But also, I also understand you got to protect relationships and stuff like that. Like, for me, I know that Bengals fans should, just look to Monday. But a lot is riding on this game right here. A lot is riding on this game. But Park, man, I want to thank you so much, man, for tuning in to the Sit Down, man, morning show and joining us, man. We'll definitely have to have you back on here soon. We don't have a game on Sunday. We have a game tonight. Maybe I could persuade you to maybe not join us tonight, but maybe join us Monday or something like that a little sooner, so we can kind of recap the game and talk about things, because they got another big one on tap. But make sure you guys do us a favor, follow Parker Blake, does amazing work. Appreciate you, Park.
Oh, thanks for having me on. And you got my number, man. You let me know when you want me to hop on. I love chatting ball with you guys. You guys are a bunch of great guys, and I love what you're doing. That's why I'm so appreciative I could be involved in your show, man. Always a pleasure.
Man, we appreciate having you, man. And you're an amazing addition. Well, we'll talk to you soon.
Take it easy, fellas.
Yes, sir. Now, it wouldn't be obviously a Thursday if we didn't talk fantasy football. Talking fantasy football with our guy Mike O'Hara. So without further ado, TWSN Fantasy Football analyst Mike O'Hara.
Morning, everyone. How are we doing today?
Good, man. Different setup, huh?
Yeah. I'm back in Dayton, back in the hometown, not in Columbus this week. So not in the usual spot.
Okay. I'm so used to seeing your backdrop and all that good stuff, man. But it's good to
next week.
Next week, okay. And you're supposed to be joining us here, aren't you?
I'll be there tomorrow in person.
You'll be there tomorrow in person, man. We love that, man. We love that. I'm excited to see you, man. I'm excited to have a great fantasy football Friday with you in person, man, and talk things through. And it'll be the first time we actually meet face to face. So we're pretty pumped up about that. But Daniel, the floor is yours.
All right, so we got fantasy football. We'll do some week 9 takeaways, and we'll head to Thursday night football, and then we'll get you out of here. But let's start it off. Obviously, you wrote your weekly piece. You guys can check out all our fantasy football content on the website. He writes, pretty much a weekly piece. But Mike, who are some of your takeaways from week 9 that you're going to carry over to the rest of the season? We'll start off with something positive. A guy that you were really shocked about, or somebody that's going to really carry over positively for the rest of the season?
Yeah, one was Tyrone Tracy. So the rookie running back, he came in, and people in the fantasy space were expecting big things out of him because Devin Singletary, not a significant talent to leapfrog there. But Tracy, he comes in, Singletary gets hurt, he's the bell cow back, and then he suffers a concussion, and there was some real speculation as to whether or not he would reclaim his role. And not only did he reclaim that role, it actually expanded. He played 72% of snaps last week, 74% of the backfield opportunities. So it's pretty clear. It's a pretty clear sign from Brian Dable about how he views this running back room and what he wants to do moving forward. This is Tyrone Tracy's backfield to lose at this point.
So, once again, if you guys have any questions, fantasy football questions about this week, drop them down below. Real quick, Keith Hellebrand said, should we expect Mark Andrews to have a big game with Isaiah Likely out?
I think it's definitely the most positive and strongest outlook we've had all season for Mark Andrews with Likely on the field. We've really only seen Andrews take on a significant role when the Ravens have been playing catch up. And that hasn't happened very often. So for the most part, Andrews has been hovering around a 40 to 50% route participation, which was a significantly steep drop off from he was running routes on about 70% of dropbacks last year with Lamar Jackson. So the emergence of Likely has significantly hindered his fantasy production. And I think if you have Andrews on your roster, and unless you're rostering one of those upper tier tight ends, you can feel pretty comfortable. I personally believe this is going to be a back and forth game where the Ravens will be forced to throw the ball. So, and just because of the absence of Likely, I think he'll be out there more often, and just more pass attempts from Lamar that benefits all of the receivers from a fantasy perspective.
Love it. We'll get back to Thursday Night Football in a second. Let's keep talking about week 9 takeaways. Who's another guy, somebody that kind of shocked you, and it could be on the positive or the negative side, that had a really good week that you're saying, hey, this can carry over for the next couple weeks?
It's less of a definitive answer and more of just let's wait and see. But it's Jackson Smith and Jigba. He had a monster game, 180 yards, I believe, and had a couple of plays called back, which could have very easily been a 200-yard performance for Smith and Jigba. But the most curious part to me was that he was doing something that he's never really done in his NFL career. He's primarily been that shallow underneath receiver, low ADOT in the slot kind of guy. But last week, he goes out and he has a 20-yard average depth of target. He accumulates over 200 air yards. So he's just getting these deep looks, and he succeeded in doing that, which was just not necessarily the surprising part, but it's the part that really makes you think, is he, when DK Metcalf comes back, are they going to ask Smith and Jigba to have just play this strictly underneath role, or are they going to mix up his usage, mix up his route tree, and ask him to go do more downfield? So that's just something that I'm really going to be monitoring, because it's not that he was seeing all these deep targets and he wasn't converting. He's proven that he can be a downfield playmaker now. And I know it wasn't the strongest secondary in the Rams, but he did it at Ohio State, and he showed it on Sunday. So monitoring what Jackson Smith and Jigba does down the stretch this season in terms of his usage and how they deploy both him and DK Metcalf is something that I'll be very, very interested to see.
So, Mike, real quick, let's do a little exercise, right? Let's say a team is 4-5. Not talking about any team in specific, definitely not my fantasy team. But let's say a team is 4-5, or somebody's having a rough season. What could you do right now to turn around your season, right? Are you looking to the waiver wire to get a guy? Are you looking to trade some pieces? Is there any guys that you would trade for to kind of turn your season around? And I'm sure, I don't know if you've got a team that's hovering around 500, but kind of take me through your thought process. We got 4 to 5 weeks before fantasy playoffs. What are you doing to turn around your season if possible?
Yeah, it's definitely on the trading block as opposed to the waiver wire. You really see those difference makers come on the waiver wire in the first couple of weeks of the season, and we just really haven't had that this year. You can call Kareem Hunt what you want. You can say Baker Mayfield was a difference maker, but I mean, in terms of the running backs and wide receivers, it's 100% on the trading block. One guy I am personally looking to acquire on the trading block if I'm trying to make a difference this season is Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel has been just an absolute monster without Brandon Ayuk on the field. We're just talking about elite wide receiver usage from Deebo Samuel without Brandon Ayuk. And I know Kittle's going to have his days. CMC is coming back, but we can expect this guy to function as a top 10 receiver moving forward. And I don't think that you're going to have to pay that price on the trading block in the vast majority of leagues, because he's only played one game, and it really wasn't a smash spot. So I don't think people truly understand what they have on their hands just yet. But he's going to be an elite fantasy option moving forward this season.
Love it. I might have to look to trade for him. So real quick before we get you out of here, you said what?
Get to Sean Brennan's question.
Oh yeah, Sean Brennan had a question. He said, "I picked up Mike Gesicki because Malik won't shut up about him. LOL. Are his numbers from last week sustainable, and can he be a reliable starter going forward?"
Before Mike answers that question, I don't want to take any thunder away from him. I'm the residential president of the Mike Gesicki fan club. Yeah. So before Mike answers this question, I just want to let you know that I can see things regarding tight ends that other people probably can't see, regarding that. But I trust Michael O'Hara. I trust that he's going to give you the correct advice that I would give regarding a guy like Mike Gesicki. But I'll allow him to take it away, and then I'll pitch in.
Yeah. Last week's number sustainable? Absolutely not. I don't think anyone's going to argue with that. Last week being sustainable, 2 touchdowns. I mean, that's going to be, those are few and far between, but a viable fantasy option, 100%, especially this week without T. Higgins playing. In the 4 games that T. Higgins hasn't played this season, Gesicki has more fantasy points and receiving yards than Jamar Chase. And he's cleared a 20% target share in two of those 4 games. So, I mean, just logically thinking, if 20% of targets from Joe Burrow in a game where they're going to be attacking a pass funnel defense, if 20% of targets is within the range of outcomes, you're absolutely starting that tight end. And I think 20% of the targets is absolutely feasible for Gesicki this week. I don't think you're going to expect him to be pushing for a 30 ball like he did last week, but it should be a big day for Mike Gesicki. I expect him to function as the team's wide receiver 2, essentially. I mean, the Bengals aren't even trying to use Mike Gesicki as a tight end. 90% of his routes have come from out wide and out of the slot. So they're just using this guy as a big slot receiver, as a lot of people have viewed him. And that skews the numbers versus like 11 and 12 personnel. But I mean, essentially, he's out there functioning as a big slot receiver, and I think you can expect him to be the team's second leading receiver tonight.
There we go. There we go. That's what I was hoping. But I'll tell you this. You want Mike Gesicki. You want T. Higgins out there, right?
Obviously.
You want T. Higgins out there. You see what he could potentially be with this offense, with Jamar Chase, with Mike Gesicki, with potential other additions to the team. I look at it and I say, hey, Mike Gesicki has been extremely reliable, and I think it took this offensive coaching staff probably way too long to figure out a way to utilize him. I think you could utilize him in a very similar fashion in which you utilize T. Higgins personally. And I'm very curious, when T. Higgins does get back, how that looks. Will Mike Gesicki be entrenched as the number 2 option, basically? Because the fact of the matter is, you have an elite wide receiver on your team in a Jamar Chase who takes away so much attention from a guy like Mike Gesicki. I think it's going to get to a point where Mike is going to have a couple of games here where it's going to start to change defensive coordinators' approach towards him. I even think the Ravens game tonight, I think the Ravens are going to play a game in which they're going to force the Bengals to show that they can utilize Mike Gesicki in a big way for them to, before they even start to look to alter the game plan at halftime to try to take away Mike Gesicki and really slow down what he can do. I think he's a guy that's emerging in this offense. You know, a lot of people clamored and they said, hey, you know, he's not a tight end. He's a glorified wide receiver who
Mhm.
just plays the tight end position. I look at it and I still think you can roll out. I talked about it last night. I still think you can roll out 11 personnel with him on the football field personally. If you get an addition from like a Jermaine Burton or Andre Yoshivas, who is yet to show that he can stretch the field, I think you're cooking with grease, man. I really believe in what this Bengals team is going to look like with Mike Gesicki as the number 2 option. But I also say this: you have a luxury with a guy like Gesicki, a similar luxury that you have with T. Higgins, that even when the odds look like, hey, this guy's covered up, I'm still throwing that ball, man.
Mhm.
I'm still giving Mike Gesicki a shot, an opportunity, because I think that one thing that Mike really excels at, and I talked about this before, I believe he has the second best hands on the team, but I really think he excels at the jump ball opportunities and those spectacular catches, man. And I think that this is a guy that's going to keep emerging in this Bengals offense, and I think that the returns are starting to pay off personally. So just my thoughts. Danny, do you have anything you want to add?
Nothing else to really add. I'm with you. I'm a huge fan of it, and I think it really goes one of two ways tonight. It goes Mike Gesicki has a big game, and if he doesn't, then that means Jamar Chase and Jermaine Burton are getting massive amounts of targets over the top. I just really struggle to see how this Bengals passing attack doesn't have success against the Ravens.
Mhm.
And this goes both ways. If the Bengals jump out to an early lead, I don't see them running the ball 30 times. And if the Bengals are playing from behind, they're not going to be running the ball. They're going to be passing the ball. So I really struggle to see how Burrow gets less than 35 pass attempts. I think he's 35 to 40 pass attempts. And with that, Gesicki's can get at least five to 6 targets. Real quick, Mike, before we head out of here, a little rapid fire questions from the chat. First one is Kevin Jones said, Curtis Samuel, should I drop him?
Absolutely. That should have happened weeks ago. It's going to be a messy rotation, even more so than it already was. And Samuel's quickly falling to the back of the pack. He does similar to what Khalil Shakir does, but he's just been doing it worse and he's been hurt. So yeah, he is more than droppable.
Speaking of Khalil Shakir, our guy Rage Al Ghul said, start Darnell Mooney or Khalil Shakir this week.
I would start Darnell Mooney. I really do think that Darnell Mooney, especially if Drake London sits, obviously, but he's got that big playability and connection with Kirk Cousins. And I do think Khalil Shakir is one of the players who is significantly hurt by Amari Cooper's presence. And now that he's likely to take on a full-time role, Khalil Shakir, he's kind of that a shallow underneath receiver like we were talking about with Jackson Smith and Jigba. And he relies on a high volume to get there in fantasy. And with Cooper in the building, I see his target share taking a dip, and it's just inefficient targets to Khalil Shakir. They're not resulting in chunk plays or touchdowns very regularly. So I think he's going to be kind of a guy that you're going to be putting on benches for the foreseeable future.
All right, 3 more quick questions from James O'Hara. We got start George Pickens versus the Commanders this week.
I think that's entirely. It obviously depends on team by team. I don't really. He's kind of on that fringe. The Commanders' defense has been really, really good in these last couple of weeks, rather the last month and a half or so. Their defense is top 10 in EPA per dropback, and they're just defending the pass really well after last year spending the year as kind of a punching bag for opposing passing attacks. So it's less than encouraging that this matchup has gotten worse. Usually this would be a smash spot against Washington, but I think it depends on what you're looking for. He's a ceiling-based flex play for me because you just know he connects on one of those moon balls from Russell Wilson, and that's a chunk play for a bunch of fantasy points. So if you're looking for ceiling, which is what I typically do in my fantasy lineups, and you just really need to have a bunch of points to win these fantasy matchups. So if you're looking for a high ceiling guy, I'd be putting him in the flex.
Kevin Jones said, should he trade Dalton Kincaid?
I mean, I like the star-sit question. It depends on the price and what you can get for him. But yeah, along with Khalil Shakir, I think that this is a guy who is significantly hurt by Amari Cooper's presence in this offense. He's a yet another low ADOT guy like most tight ends are, other than like Kyle Pitts. But He just like the thesis on Dalton Kincaid was that he was going to assume the number one receiving option in Buffalo, and he just didn't do that. He hasn't cleared a 20% target share across the full season, and if he's not going to be seeing volume over guys like Khalil Shakir and Mac Hollins and company, I just don't see him doing it when Amari Cooper's in the building. So what are a bunch like 6 targets a game, not even 6 targets, 4 targets a game behind the sticks going to do for you in your fantasy lineup? Not a whole lot. So yeah, if you can get really anything for him, I'd be more than willing to ship off Dalton Kincaid.
And then Todd Schmees said, would you start Christian McCaffrey or sit him this week?
Absolutely starting Christian McCaffrey. It's even if it's a slightly reduced workload, you have to start this guy. He's played 27 games, I believe, with the San Francisco 49ers. He has 21 top 12 finishes. He scored more than 40 points more often than he scored less than 10 with the 49ers. Like, this is a guy that you absolutely start if he's on the football field. It's impossible to know what sort of workload we're looking like, but you know what the ceiling is. You drafted him with the first overall pick, maybe the second, but you've been waiting 10 weeks to get this guy in your lineup. Don't be hesitant now. You just jam him in there.
Beautiful.
Mike, we appreciate you so much, man. And looking forward to having you live in studio for the first time tomorrow, man, and talking ball with you. Make sure you guys give him a follow. We'll see you tomorrow on Fantasy Football Friday, Mike.
Yep. See you guys soon. Have a good one.
Yes, sir. If you guys do us a favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or upload content. We're going to go straight to the right bet stuff. We'll save that next topic for tomorrow if we can. But Daniel, give me some of your favorite bets for tonight for NBA and for NFL.
Man, I'm a huge fan. We'll start off with NBA. I think that there's a ton of games that I like, especially the Spurs game. The Spurs game is the first one. I mean, there's only actually a couple games on the slate, but still, the Spurs game is the first one I like. I'm fading Victor Wembanyama. Victor Wembanyama is a guy that has consistently gone under his points, rebounds, and assist prop just because of what the outside noise says. Everybody is pretty much in agreement that he's the future superstar for the NBA, but his line was just way too high the past couple games. And when I look at his total points, rebounds, and assists, his lines right now, it's at 39.5, and he has not hit that. He's hit that twice so far this year. So give me his under 39.5. And if there's anything else I like for that game, I like Chris Paul's over assists, 8.5. He's hit that, in I believe 3 of his past 4 games. And if there's one more for NBA real quick, once again, you guys go to the Patreon for full best bets.
Talk about the QR code too, where to find
it.
Yeah.
The QR code is right below me, right here. You guys can go scan that QR code. Once again, a full best bets are on there. We're talking NFL, UFC, NBA, pretty much every damn day. Giannis, they're at a point, Malik, that the Milwaukee Bucks are 1-6. And they need something to turn their season around quick. And his line right now is at 30 points. He's getting a 30 ball tonight against Jazz. I'm not even concerned about it. He's a player. When I look at the Bucks, the biggest issue is that they're running all the offense through him. And he's not really passing the ball. He's averaging 5.5 assists a game. But when I look at Giannis and what he means to this team and just how their backs are up against the wall, he consistently, time and time again, shows up. The only way this doesn't happen if they blow out the Utah Jazz, but the way that they're playing, it ain't gonna happen. So 30 points for me. Giannis is probably my favorite play of the day. Do you want to do any NBA or just go to Thursday Night Football?
Yeah, I'll save mine for the Patreon. We can go to NFL, but I will tell you right now, I mentioned it last night. Charlie Kohler's yards is up 13.5 yards, sitting at plus 100. No Isaiah Likely. He'll be the second tight end. He had 60 yards on 3 catches on the Bengals last time he played. I expect Charlie Kohler to smash that number.
It's a great line. 13.5. That's a great line. And even looking at it, if you want to go crazy, him to get 40 yards is plus 630. So like these are one of the bets where I see a lot of value in laddering up. Because a lot of times, if you're just taking straight bet after straight bet after straight bet, a lot of times Vegas will catch up. You may win 6 out of 10. You may win 65% clip, but Vegas, they get you with that minus 110. But where they can't get you is sprinkling on these big odds, and you get him for 50 yards plus 1,000. So if I throw $10 on that, $10 to win $100 to him to get 50 yards. That's not out of the realm of possibility. So I like that definitely as a sprinkle. Some of my favorite plays for this game, like I said, I'm targeting Joe Burrow and I'm targeting his pass completions. 23.5 is too low for him. This Ravens defense, they do play a top down coverage. A lot of times they do double Jamar Chase. They play the over top coverage. And we see time and time again, what has Joe Burrow been doing consistently? He is just dishing out the rock. And a lot of times the first drive we see 7 for 7, 8 for 8, and that's already 1/3 of this total props. 23.5 pass completions. I'm a huge fan of it. And if I'm going something else, I like Chase Brown's under. And if you guys don't like unders, that's okay. I like his under 57.5. It's just a lot of yards. Like I said, no running back has hit this over against the Baltimore Ravens, and the Bengals are bringing in Khalil Herbert. He may get a couple rushes. I just don't think we see anything more than, at most 16 rushing attempts by Chase Brown. 57.5 rushing yards is a lot. I don't believe the running game is going to be a focal point for the Cincinnati Bengals. I think that they understand it's going to be a pass-heavy attack, and I would definitely be looking at the under for Chase Brown. And to finish it off, Malik, plus 5.5, I would take the alternate spread. I'd buy up the Bengals plus 7.5. You get that minus 150. This is a one possession game. The Bengals aren't losing by more than 7 points. If they lose this game, it may be, a 3-point game, may lose, a late field goal, but give me 7.5 points at minus 150. I feel like the books are just sleeping on the Bengals here. I feel like this Ravens team has looked very dominant, but 2 weeks ago, they just lost a divisional game to the Cleveland Browns. So plus 7.5, Cincinnati Bengals, and I would even sprinkle on their money line. Money line's plus 220. But I like the Bengals to keep it within 7.5 points. I think that's super safe.
Man, I'm looking forward to this game. Before we head out of here, I just want to see something else. I want to see what their receptions, they put Charlie Kohler's receptions at 1.5 plus money too.
Yeah.
Take that. I'm loving this game. Mike Gesicki's receptions at 4.5. I like Mike Gesicki personally at 4 tonight. 4 catches. He might get 5, he might get 6, might get 7, might get 8. But I definitely like him at 4. That's a prop that I definitely like. I like Jamar Chase anytime touchdown scorer tonight. And I've said it on the show, and I see maybe people were watching the show last night, but I want to make sure I'm on record saying this right now. I believe Jermaine Burton, if he does play significantly, I believe he will score his first touchdown tonight in Baltimore. I believe that, and I'm banking on that. I believe that he'll show up in a big way for this team, in which they're relying on him. I'm excited to see Khalil Herbert, the Khalil Herbert edition. I want to see what his rushing prop is at.
Mm-hmm.
I think I don't think they have it up just yet. I saw his touchdown prop is up. I think it's like plus 600 or something like that. But there are gonna be a lot of plays to kind of get to tonight. I'll be back live tonight after the Bengals Ravens game with my guy Jared, Arabian, and Daniel, obviously, as we break down Bengals versus Ravens. I'll be back alive tomorrow, 10 a.m. with Zim Hude, as we'll be breaking down the game together as we've embarked on this new journey with our recap shows together as well. So we've got so much content planned for you guys in the pipeline, so much exciting stuff in store. Make sure you guys give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or when we upload content. Remember, there's only one way you should be waking up, talking sports, having the conversation, engaging, and that is the right way. See you tonight, everybody.